All right, everybody. Good late morning. We are here on Sunday, the day after the 2026 NFL draft has concluded. And we've got a little bit more to go through here. I talked about this very briefly in the early morning video. Go watch that if you haven't already. But the Seattle Seahawks, as well as every other team in the NFL, has done some work in undrafted free agency. So obviously there are over 1,000 players eligible to get drafted for any particular NFL draft, and only 250, 260 of them or so are going to get drafted each year. So everyone who doesn't get drafted goes to undrafted free agency where teams are allowed to sign players. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, more on them a little bit later. But the idea is that any player that was eligible for the draft that doesn't get drafted can kind of negotiate a 3-year deal with any team. And the players have agency over which team they go to, but obviously it needs to be a team that actually wants them in the first place. Now, you also have rookie minicamp invites, and that's something where you don't offer the player a contract, but you offer them the opportunity to show up to rookie minicamp, which is actually, I think, next week or maybe the week after, and compete for a roster spot. And the odds of those guys ever making it are slim, but not zero. So let's spend a little bit of time on this with a clear caveat. This is not a year where the Seahawks are going to be doing a lot as an undrafted free agent recruiter, which is why we traded back into the 7th round to get 3 picks there so we could get a few players that we really wanted, like Fuller, because we knew that it would be hard for us to sign those guys in undrafted free agency. And the reason why that is because this team just won the Super Bowl and their roster is very good. They didn't lose that much over the offseason. They lost some stuff. They didn't lose that much stuff. So if you're an undrafted free agent player, you're obviously not that coveted. You're a fringe NFL player at best because you didn't even get drafted in a pretty bad draft. You don't want to go to a loaded team that is filled up on players that they like and knows what they are. You want to go to a bad team that actually might have a roster spot for you. And also, and this is something in this article, this is the Seattle Times. I believe this is Condota here. Yeah, it's Bob Condota. The Seahawks ended the draft with 83 players on the roster, which means there's only room for 8 undrafted free agents. And that's only because they have 91 roster spots total because they have an international player. But 8 is not very much. So 8 UDFA slots. And remember, Dante Fowler. If the Seahawks intend on signing Dante Fowler next week or at any point, that's another roster spot. So at that point, you only have 7 spots. And you might sign multiple veteran edge rushers. What if you sign Dante Fowler and later on you sign Jadeveon Clowney? Or what if you sign Cam Jordan, Von Miller, probably 1 or 2 other guys that I can't even remember off the top of my head. But the point I'm trying to make is that they may only have room for 6 UDFAs. And this is going to be a year where I think any UDFA is very hard pressed to make the team. So understand that we're going to go through this. We're going to take a look at who we got. I would not necessarily expect any of these players to make the team, and even the practice squad is going to be an uphill battle. Nevertheless, let's take a look at what we got, because what we have right now is probably most of what we're going to get, if not all of it. If you like sports, the best way to make them better and more exciting is using Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks, all you got to do is pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build lineups with a few taps. It's the daily fantasy stuff, but it's made super easy over there. Whatever sport you're into, give it a shot. And right now, Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All you have to do is use promo code HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far. It makes this daily fantasy thing very easy, and it makes watching the games way more exciting. Be sure to check out the social feeds feature so you can share lineups with your friends and tail partners or even fade their picks. Right now, Prize Picks is offering odds on the NFL draft. You have who's going to go where, what each team is going to do, how many of each position is going to go in each round, and so on and so on. Get on over to Prize Picks. Take advantage of that. So, download Prize Picks today, America's #1 sports app, and remember to use the promo code HMA. And remember, always gamble responsibly. So, the UDFAs the Seahawks have signed so far, we have a linebacker from TCU, Devin Deal, a bigger linebacker, so much so that I almost feel like he won't be a linebacker in the NFL. Maybe they listed him as a defensive end. So, I do wonder if maybe he's going to end up at like edge rusher or something like that because he is a bigger guy. But he did have a pretty productive year for the Horned Frogs last year, so this is not just some nobody who didn't play. This was somebody who was an okay player at the collegiate level. So, I don't know if we have room for a linebacker anyway, but the edge rusher thing's interesting. We signed a Wisconsin tight end named Lance Mason, decently sized, but not particularly big tight end. He's like 6'4", 250 for modern standards, decently sized for a tight end. Had 30 catches for about 400 yards last year. Did actually play quite a bit for Wisconsin. He is probably more of an H-back than he is an inline tight end, but there's not really a lot here. He's not strong. He's not really a good route runner. He doesn't have great hands. He's not a I don't know. I don't get the sense that there's anything particularly exciting other than there's like a fun foundation, but I don't know what a tight end could really do for this Seahawks team right now anyway when you think about it, because we are talking about a team that is pretty loaded there, especially with the fact that Elijah Arroyo has 3 years left on his deal, and you're also talking about the fact that we re-signed Eric Saubert mid-season last year. Uso Suamalo, I think, might be the more intriguing guy of this half a dozen player group. Suamalo, Kansas State, he's big. He's 340 pounds, so he's probably a nose tackle. He's been a player on KSU for the last 4 years, so it's not like he was a small school guy and then he just spent 1 year at a real college. This guy has legitimate NFL nose tackle size. And I think that's something the Seahawks are interested in because they didn't really have one last year. They got away with it. They had a great run defense still, but I think a team like the Rams takes advantage of the fact they don't have a true nose tackle because they tend to run the ball fairly effectively when we play them because they have all that size with the middle of their offensive line. So Suamalo to me is a name to watch. We also got a receiver, Michael Briscoe from Cal Poly. Got pretty decent size. He's 6'2", 205 pounds. Had almost 800 receiving yards last year for Cal Poly. Does have a little bit of downfield speed. He's a decent athlete. He's got some burst as well. And he's a good ball tracker down the field. So there's like a little bit of like a pure deep threat here, I think, that is intriguing for Briscoe. Again, it's a long, long way between him. There's a big distance between him and an NFL roster, but not bad. I don't think we really have room for a receiver. Edge rusher Aiden Hubbard might be the most high profile guy we got here. He's an edge rusher, and that's one thing that's compelling. An edge rusher is actually a player that has a chance to maybe make this team. So Hubbard might have the best opportunity to actually make the 53-man roster, even if it's unlikely. He's got Mike McDonald type size from Northwestern, 255. That works. That's a little bit oversized. That's not a 245-pound Leo. He was projected by some as being a late draft pick. Good athlete, and he did do well against some pretty decent teams because Northwestern doesn't play a complete joke of a schedule. They do play a somewhat normal schedule. The NFL.com listed him as a odd front edge rusher, so he is projected to be somebody who plays standing up. He does have some athletic pass rush elements, and he does need to develop some more run defense ability. He needs more size and strength, but he is kind of tall, so he could add weight if he needs to. He can add muscle weight, no problem. So that's intriguing. And then the final guy as of right now is Levi Wentz, a Kansas receiver. And again, I mean, with all the stuff going on at receiver right now on this team, I can't imagine we have room for another one. But a Kansas receiver, 6'2", so pretty good size, has only been playing football for a handful of years here, not relatively new to the sport. Caught 258 receiving yards on 16 catches last year. So I can't say there's a lot here to get super gassed about, but he is a physical player. He's a little bit bigger than typical. And again, you want to have a lot of receivers, I think, on your practice squad, because that's a position where you need to give yourself not just receivers, but also special teamers. So that is the rundown on the 6 UDFAs: Devin Deal, Lance Mason, Uso Suomalo, Michael Briscoe, Aiden Hubbard, and Levi Wentz. Now, the rookie minicamp invites are, first we have Tyler Doty of the Buffalo, what are they? The Buffalo Bulls? Yeah, the Buffalo Bulls. Don't really know anything about him. Can't really say much to this. And I don't think anybody's going to really know anything about the rookie minicamp invites. These guys are the guys who can't even get a UDFA deal, so they're very, very low-key players. You have Finn Claypool, a Fresno State defensive end that we're signing, or not signing, but inviting as a fullback. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe he can do both. If he can do both, then maybe he's worth a roster spot, but we do like having fullbacks around, and I know we like, shoot, the Alabama guy. Hold on one second, guys. Yeah, sorry, guys. Had a brain fart. Been looking at too many names lately. Robbie Oots, but Finn Claypool going to get an opportunity on a tryout here. You have NIU linebacker, so that's Northern Illinois, Quinn Erweiler, to try out at the rookie minicamp next weekend. So, yeah, that is coming up very soon, by the way. So, not a big college or anything, but Quinn Erweiler is going to come in here, and we're going to see what's up. And one thing to keep in mind with these guys, you may not sign them, you may not even give them a 90-man roster spot, but you do kind of want to have a good impression of them so you can get them later if later on you need someone. Like, let's say the Seahawks have a really, really bad injury year at linebacker where a bunch of players get hurt. They're going to have to promote some of their depth linebackers to starter. They're going to have to promote some of their practice squad guys to the roster. And that means they're going to need to sign new linebackers for the practice squad. If Quinn Erweiler goes in there over minicamp and looks good, he probably won't get signed, but we could have his name on speed dial so we can call him up and sign him if we need a temporary practice squad fill-in. So that's relevant too for these players. And the final guy that I've heard of who we're inviting to rookie minicamp is Cyrus Webster of Utah Tech, an edge rusher. Again, not somebody that I know anything about, but we have here another edge rusher. That is the one position where I think there's a little bit of leeway for a guy to make the team. If you look better than Jared Ivey, you may make this team, and that's not impossible. Jared Ivey is not a super high bar to clear. All right, so that's it. Usually you get more than 4 rookie minicamp tryouts, but we may be going light this year because of the fact that the roster is already pretty stacked, and we don't want to make anybody feel like they're wasting their time, and we don't want to waste our time too with a player that we already know before they even get there is just not going to make the team or even the practice squad. Okay, so that's everything we got here. Rookie minicamp invites: Tyler Doty, Finn Claypool, Quinn Erweiler, and Cyrus Webster. So let me know what you guys think, if anything. I don't think any of these guys make the team. If I had to pick one, though, it would be Suomalo. And I think Suomalo could make the practice squad even if he doesn't do that. And maybe Hubbard makes the practice squad too. Those would be my favorites. But other than that, I mean, this roster is pretty set, guys. Remember, this happened in, I want to say, 2014 too, or it happened in that early Pete Carroll era where our roster was so good, we ended up letting go a lot of good players, and they did go on to other teams to be good. It's not because there's anything wrong with this team. It's just we're so loaded and our roster is so set. It's really hard to even overly concern yourself with filling out the back end of the roster because it's already filled out pretty well. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. And I will be seeing you guys soon. More videos coming.